right, welcome everyone. We're going to have an absolutely fantastic time painting a beautiful coastal scene of a restaurant along a bay. We have a cruise ship along here on the right hand side. We have the gorgeous restaurant with the windows and the doors and the beautiful roof and the gables and the white umbrella here where there's maybe a patio here, and we have some wonderful water in like a bay, like an inlet bay section over here. So this is the water and the water underneath the building, and we have the pilings and all the really fun details of this. So this is just a fun painting to do using the glazing technique, and we're going to get lots of light, beautiful light washes across the whole painting. First we let that dry 100%, and then we go in and we do our medium and dark tonal values over top, creating all the details of everything and putting everything together, pulling the whole painting together with the medium and dark tonal values on this painting. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. Let's get prepped and ready to go with our pencil and our ruler. We're gonna work a little bit with the pencil and the ruler to start out with by getting our sketch, and then after that we're ready to get started with the painting portion. Okay, so we'll be right back and we'll get started with the pencil drawing. Alright, so we're going to start with our pencil sketch. We just saw the finished drawing, and again, what a fun scene to do. Great restaurant along like a coastal scene, along or along a bay. We have a boat over here on the right hand side, and it's kind of like a cruise ship maybe, or a large fishing boat, or a tour boat, and then the restaurant is the main focal point. We can kind of see that. Really, that's our main focal point here. So maybe you'll find that maybe you have a favorite restaurant you like to have dinner at, and it could be in any setting. Could be a country type scene out in the country, could be along the water, could be in the city, could be like a even like a city scene with storefronts in like a really large metropolitan area in a large city like New York, or any of the major cities, anything like that. So basically just the idea is here in this painting, we're just going to have fun getting the basic shapes of things, and then just add the beautiful watercolor washes on our painting in a loose fashion, as well as the details. So we're not going to really get into incredible detail, but we will have some details in this painting, enough that it kind of just gives us that real beautiful quality of some details in there that are interesting, but yet a softer watercolor look that we'll try to produce in this painting. So let's continue on here. Again, we're going to get in our pencil sketch here. So let me see if I can get that might be a little bit better view with the border a little bit closer in, so it's kind of zoomed in a little better. We can see it halfway up the picture, a little bit more than halfway. So if we have the halfway point of our painting about here, halfway across the page, that's kind of easy to divide the painting in half. You can always measure it with a ruler. This is, I think, a 7 by 10. Let me just double check that. So this is it's a 7 by 10 rectangle, and then we can just kind of say to ourselves, all right, 3.5 inches is about the halfway point, about there. And then we say this is a little bit above halfway, so this roof line here of this restaurant's about maybe not quite 3/4 of the way. So let's go with a little bit above halfway. Maybe we'll go 3/4 of the way from the bottom up. So if we were just to kind of do a quick little bit of math here, 3.5 is the halfway point. And then if we want to go another halfway, so 7, so 3.5 is the halfway point. That's here actually. So 3.5 down from the top, or 3.5 inches up from the bottom. That's our halfway point. And we're saying that this scene, the rooftop, again, is a little bit above halfway. So we'll try to maybe just go up a little bit from there. Maybe we'll go up another inch. So we could just even make it real simple. We'll go up 1 more inch above the halfway point, and we'll call that the top of the roofs of this restaurant. And then you can make a really, at home, super barely visible line to you on your watercolor paper So when you're doing your sketch lines and kind of laying out your drawing for your painting, what I like to do is I like to sometimes, even most times, I try to make them darker here so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'll make them darker in this video format here where I'm creating a video. But at home, when you're doing your sketch lines, just to kind of lay out things, get things situated into your rectangle, your divisions of your space divisions of your subject matter, just think of it as you're just going to do super, very, very super light sketch lines so that you don't have to deal with erasing things later on. You can just leave the light pencil lines in your painting because you'll never see them. Once you start doing all of your washes, it's not going to be seen, probably, most likely. And even if it is, it kind of adds a little variety to your painting, I would say. So I wouldn't worry about the light sketch lines at all. Darker pencil lines, yes, you'll see those, and I like to see them in my painting, but it's up to you if you want to draw everything in a light format, very light pencil line, that's fine. Or you can draw darker pencil lines, that's also up to you. You're the artist, you're going to figure out what your style is or what you like to do, or you can just try darker pencil lines at times and lighter pencil lines other times when you're drawing and see how you like those effects in your paintings, and then you might decide to yourself, you'll say to yourself, yeah, I like the darker pencil lines. I like to see some of that in my paintings. Or, no, I don't really like that. I rather just have very minimal pencil lines in my painting. So it's up to you. You can decide where you adjust those type of things in your artwork. But here, I'm just going with a light pencil sketch line here just to get my little bit above halfway point to get my roofs over here started. So now that I have that 3/4 or half plus an inch halfway up the painting plus another inch add on, that's the roof line here. So what I'll do is I'll just start my roof line over here, and I'll come up and I'll make these pencil lines dark enough so that you can see, and I'll probably shift to a larger pencil, although I could sketch it with this. We'll sketch it with this. We'll sketch it with a smaller pencil like this. Doesn't really affect things too much. So I go across a little bit there. I kind of see I need to go about a fair amount across this way for the ridge of the roof over here, and then all of a sudden I'm intersecting with the gables of the structure here on this restaurant, beautiful restaurant here. So let me do that. Let me say that this gable's about here, and it's going to come this way. And then also, too, we see an umbrella here in the front by the front of the restaurant on the boardwalk area over here. So we're going to make that umbrella, too, as well. So we'll see that that's about here. And we'll get our angle going across there for our umbrella. Like that. And maybe we'll just make some of the bottom portion of the umbrella. You can even make some lines on the umbrella, like so. Or you can just leave that without any lines. Let me see if I can find a eraser here. Alright, no worries. I'm just looking for an eraser here. Sometimes I might use an eraser on the other side of my studio and I don't bring it back over to my table here, so no worries, we'll erase that later. But in any case, we're moving along here. We're getting our roof. You can use a ruler if you like to get your roof angles and things. That's fine. To get some of these roof angles, we can simply take the very, very point of the gable of this roof here and put a straight line down like that, very lightly. And then draw a light sketch here just to kind of get the So the bottom of the umbrella over here is actually right where the bottom of this triangle is. So this half of the gable of this roof. So if you can imagine, you can get like a perfect triangle there, and then you can measure it, and then just take that same measurement and drop it over here. We'll do that just now, just so we can just get a 2 1/4 inches. So from the center of this gable here, the first one that we're looking at right now up here, this gable, the center, we would drop a line, a plumb line, a straight line, a vertical line straight down, and then we go this way where we feel we can get a measurement across this way that'll intersect like that. And it actually lines up with the bottom of the umbrella, just hypothetically to get a good angle for this roof and these gables. So we said that was 2 1/4. We can come over here and just keep that straight line across. 2 1/4, make a little dot there. We could also put just a light pencil line to sort of work out our angles and say, okay, that's there. And then we could drop down that other angle from the very ridge of the roof here, the peak of the gable, where the ridge is, the ridge of the roof, and then drop down that other line this way on an angle, about a 45-degree angle approximately. And then now you can see we almost have a perfect triangle, or something that's very close to a symmetrical triangle on both sides, because it's easy to kind of go off the mark here and say, all right, let's draw this angle here for this part of the gable of the building here, that feature, architectural feature, and then all of a sudden we'll come over here and pencil draw it. Again, this is where the ruler comes in handy. If you can use the ruler and kind of just take that extra step of like saying, all right, well, if we have this line here at this angle, all we have to do is drop a perfect straight line down this way, and then just put it at a location where we think it's going to be the bottom of this edge of this part of the gable roof over here. And we did notice that it probably lands about right where the bottom of the umbrella is. Hopefully this makes sense. So if you just get that one triangle here, trapezoid maybe, and we're trying to create a triangle here for the most part, we just take that same measurement, which we said was 2 1/4. So we went 2 1/4 inches from here over to the very point where it meets and intersects with this angle coming down this way, 2 1/4. Then we just do the same thing over here, 2 1/4, make a little dot, and then we just have to take that line here from the point of that roof feature and just make our pencil line there. And then you can see we have almost a perfect triangle there. That'll give us that really beautiful look of that gable, those two gables there on the face of this building, on this restaurant. So now we do notice that we have a second gable here feature. So then the same thing we would do is kind of figure out that's about here. So if we look at it from the picture, our reference photo, it's just a little bit down from the top of this peak of the roof here down this way, just a little bit. You'll see that's the next roof feature, the gable feature over here. And then all we do is just take our ruler and angle it. And this is kind of easy to see. You can kind of see how you just maintain an equal distance with your ruler, but you could measure it too if you wanted to. You make your mark here, and then you measure that mark and say, what is that dimension there? And it's approximately 1/2 inch. So then you can come over here even too and just make this. You can make a mark 1/2 inch down from this angle, 1/2 inch down this way. And then what we do and what we achieve by doing that is we're going to hold that same line all the way across, 1/2 inch from here. We make the same mark here, measure it 1/2 inch here, make a dot. Then when we put our ruler across, we have that perfect angle. That's almost foolproof. Then we just do that. And now you can see we have both of these angles for these two gable features on this side of the building, the front of the building actually, where the main entrance is to the restaurant. So it's a wonderful restaurant scene here. We're having a lot of fun. Yes, we're going to go over some technical stuff once in a while. Never worry about it. Take your time doing it. rewind the tape a little bit, a couple times here and there if you have to sort of go over it a few times. It's real important that if we can get that really nice architectural quality of this scene, it's really fantastic. Eventually, if you do this a long time, maybe 2-3 years of doing this a lot, measuring, and you'll do it by just by hand. You wouldn't have to really take out rulers and things. You'll be able to get those angles and things pretty close. But that's if you're working on a regular basis and you're drawing a lot and working here on our channel every week, and we're painting all the time here, and we're having a great time of it. So it will come a little bit easier as you go. So you always have to remember that. The more you're getting familiar with working with angles and perspective and drawing features of architecture and different things, it'll get easier for you all the time. Every time you do a painting, the next time you do a painting of something similar, subject matter wise, so the next time you do any kind of like restaurant or barn or house, anything like that, it'll be a little bit easier the next time because you've already done this painting here, and you'll take that information that you recall and then just parlay it into the next your next artwork, your next painting. So we're going to continue here. So at this point we have this other section of roof here which is a little lower. It's pretty close to the same height here. You can see this top of this ridge of this roof over here on the left side of the building. It does drop down a little bit. That can look a little bit awkward. We might want to make it the same height. I think we will. So this might be where they created an addition on the restaurant at some point, and they made a different roof line. I think it would look better if we made this the same roof line going all the way across, but you know what? It looks so great the way it is. Let's leave it the way it is. I'd rather not start reinventing the wheel here. So I just noticed that this roof is starting about here. So it is that little bit lower. So then we'll just take that line and we'll come across here and we'll make a level line across here. And to get your level line across here, you could measure from the top down again, just to maybe if you want to do that, you'll be fine. You'll say, okay, it's 2 7/8 inch is where that first dot is, where we made the roof here, where we started right here, where this roof starts coming this way, the ridge of the roof over here. So if we measured it down and said it's 2 7/8 inch, we make that dot 2 7/8, and that's where we start. And then we just come over here a little bit and do the same thing, 2 7/8, make a dot, and then we can just line up those two dots. And we also have some different features here, but what we'll do is we're going to take a quick break because we've done a lot of work so far. So it's best we can get some of these features in. We've worked on quite a bit of the building already. We're almost like halfway there getting the building completed. And so that's really a good thing. We're really kind of making great progress here. So let's keep going, but let's take a quick break. I always like to take a break every 10, 15, 20 minutes I'm working. I like to take a break. So we'll do that. We'll come right back and we'll finish up our drawing of the beautiful restaurant here along the water, along the bay and the ocean. And then once we have our sketch done, we're going to get right into the watercolor painting. Okay, so we'll be right back. All right, so we're going to keep working here now. I was going to say at this point, I'm going to try to get the proper height of these eaves of the roof over here. And it looks like if I put my ruler across over here on the painting, and I want to see where this section of the roof here, the eaves of the roof over here, where that lines up going across here to the umbrella. So if I look at the here, I would say it's halfway between the top and bottom of the umbrella is approximately where the eaves are of this roof here. So if I go here and say this is about the halfway point between the top and the bottom of the umbrella, I make just a tiny dot like that, and that's pretty much the eaves of the roof all the way across here. So what I'll do is make a mark there, a dot here, and then a dot out here. And I'm just looking at the distance from this point here where this rake edge of this gable comes down and intersects with this fascia board here, which is the eave of the roof over here. It's about there, and it comes over about that much. And then there's an angle here, and there's also a crane in this picture. And that's interesting. That might be a crane that's on a boat, so that might be a boat crane. And keep ourselves here going without too much complexity. That's where when you're painting outdoors, painting from photographs, painting from art books, anything like that, you can make the decision as an artist. Am I going to leave something in my painting, or am I going to kind of make a decision and say, let me take a few things out that maybe it'll make it easier for me just to get the painting done, and perhaps I can go back in and do it later. But let's make some decisions here. Let's maybe this crane is interesting. It's a boat and a crane, but let's put it in. So I'll take that crane and I'll put the boom, and it's right along the roof edge there, and it comes up about here. So I'll come down like this, and it's got some mass to it. It's a little bit thinner at the top, and it gets a little bit larger, kind of like a baseball bat upside down. So if you can imagine the crane boom here, it kind of looks like a baseball bat. This would be the baseball bat where you hold the handle over here. So this is almost like the tape on the handle of a baseball bat. And then there's that little nubby thing at the end of the baseball bat, the butt end of the baseball bat. And then as it goes down this way, it's the actual bat where it strikes the ball here. It's a little bit thicker and larger in diameter. So I'm going to look at this as an upside down baseball bat. And that gives me kind of just the idea of, okay, it's going to be thinner here where the handle is, and it gets wider as it comes down that way. And that to me is good enough. I can kind of use ideas of shapes of things I already know and then say, okay, that works good for that. And then I can come over here and I can put in this wall underneath the roof here. Underneath the roof eaves, there's the wall here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put the wall here like that. And that wall comes down a little more to about here maybe. And then I think this goes across about here. That's going to be like the boardwalk and things, like the boardwalks and planks all the way around the restaurant. And then over here, I'm going to take my ruler and just drop down these points of the building here, like that. So that's we made those dots before, which were all even with this here, going across. So we made those dots where the eave of the roof is here, where the roof sort of meets the wall of the building. We made those dots here and here, and now we just drop those lines down. Those are the actual walls of the building, like that. And then once we have that, you can kind of see we're getting everything pretty much together now. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. We are looking for a looser painting here, a looser looking, more fun and free painting. But at the same token, I want to get some good basic draftsmanship done here on this painting before I start to really just like get the watercolors and paints going and the brushes, and you'll see what we'll do as we go. But right now you'll see I did get a good solid drawing of the restaurant here, and that's the main thing I wanted to do. The other thing is there's a wall underneath here like this. That's there. That umbrella is pretty prominent over here on the left side. And from this point, what else do we need to do? We do see that we have a seawall here. So this is like a bay area, and there's a seawall here with railings, and these are where people have parking. So we'll have that parking area there. So what we'll do is we'll kind of figure out how much area is between this seawall across over to the restaurant, because there's like an area of water between this parking area and the restaurant. So we'll just look at that and say, yeah, it's about the same height as the building, where the bottom of the building is up to the eave of the roof. That's about the same height as from the bottom of the decking where you would walk around in the scene into the restaurant. So if you can imagine, you're walking around the boardwalk area here, the planking around the restaurant, and then there is an area of water over here, and then there's more planking and things like that up here with railings, so people can walk up and walk into the doors of the main entrance of the restaurant, or it could be a secondary entrance to the restaurant here. So we won't get too bogged down with too much detail on that, but we're just going to say, though, that there is a parking area here where people park to go to the restaurant, and there's water just on the other side of this seawall here where there's parking and railings, and then you have your restaurant a little bit further back. So we'll make that distance the same height approximately as from here to here, down here to the seawall. So I'll just take a quick measurement. I'll maybe make it a little more than what I see. So it's 3/4 of an inch here from the eave of the roof down to the bottom of the building. I'll go 1 inch from the bottom of the planking here, or for the planking around the building, the restaurant, 1 inch down. I'll make that my seawall here. I could even make it more. Maybe I'll go 1.25 inches. I'll do that, 1.25 inches. And then I'll do that. I'll just go across like that, 1.25 inches. And then that comes over here like this. Maybe I'll make my own little bit of angle here. I'm not going to try to do anything. I'm going to try to stick with what I see here. Better off. I'll just do that. This boardwalk looks like it goes straight. A straight line there. So I'll do the same thing. And that the boardwalk over here, this line, is about halfway between here and the end of the building. So between here and the end of the building, halfway is about there. I take my ruler and I just get an approximately straight line like this. Plumb line going straight, vertical like this. And I see it kind of curves over like this. And then there's a boat in here somewhere. Close by there, there's a boat in the water there. So we'll do that. We'll make a boat here. Like that. And all underneath this whole entire building are piers and pilings and cross bracing under here. So we're going to capture that too. It's mostly over here. Over here it looks like there might be a little more, maybe a foundation of some sort. So, okay, we have that completed. And there's another wall maybe coming in here on an angle. So that would kind of be about here, just underneath the umbrella, a wall coming in like this. So we could just make some angles. So you'll just see I'm trying to look at what my subject matter is. My subject matter is my photograph. And if I just get some basic shapes of how things are looking to lead the eye into the picture, I'll make this like wall here. It looks like there's some sort of wall over here. Might be like another bit of pilings with some wood boards, some planking or something. So I just go with that idea of maybe some planking over here. And it leads the eye into the picture, the angle. And then again we have some railings over here. We might make those railings like this. We'll just give ourselves three railings equally distanced. So that's where you can take that ruler again and say, let's just do 3/16 of an inch. And then 1, 2, 3/16 of an inch. So I went 3/16 of an inch down from the bottom railing, or from the top railing down. Light pencil sketch. And then again, 3/16 down. I make another line. And I just make sure it's parallel. My ruler is parallel with the previous pencil lines we just made. And there we go. There we have the railing lines. And then we could put in the vehicle. It's a small minivan. Maybe I might leave out the small minivan. Vehicles are difficult to draw. Boats seem to be a little easier sometimes. For me, I probably practice a lot more boats than I have vehicles. So, but I will put this crane, this boat with the crane, it's like a boat, crane boat, I guess I'd call it. That's over here. And then I can maybe draw this by hand a little bit, like this. So that's the, it's got some angles to it, windows on there, the boat. And it's down this way here. And again, once you start getting your angles in and your pencil drawing, we're wrapping up our pencil drawing here. We have that other boat over here on the right side, over here. Again, we've done a lot of drawing so far. This is a perfect time we take another break. When we do that, we'll be able to relax a little bit. We'll rest our mind a little bit. And when we come back, we'll finish up the pencil drawing. I think we'll just get the last bit of distant shoreline over here where we can see some mountains across the ocean, across the bay there. We see some mountains. And we see that we have another really beautiful boat over here. It looks like a tour boat, maybe a ferry boat. So we'll put that into over here on the right-hand side. It'll add some interesting details to this painting, right? You got all those little small rectangular shaped windows on this, let's call it a tour boat. And that'll look really good with this painting, as we're going to see. And then there's maybe another piling over here. So I will put that other piling in the picture in a second. So I'm just going to try to get that angle there. And then I'll make that other piling over here. That is right here. And it's only, well, it's about halfway where the roof is there. So we'll put that there. Nice vertical element in the painting like that. And we have another vertical here with the crane. And that looks good. A couple verticals looks nice. We have the umbrella post like that with a small base on it, oval base, barely visible. And from there, I think we're going to have a fun time wrapping up the pencil drawing. I know this is a little bit detailed. Sometimes when we're doing our pencil drawings, that's why I take breaks, because sometimes when I'm doing pencil drawings, I get like, wow, I got to sit down for a few minutes and just be like, let me gather my thoughts again here and come back and, you know, get some more pencil drawing done. But it takes a little bit of time. Working out some of the stuff with a ruler will help you tremendously if you can take the time and really, but if you feel you're pretty handling angles and things pretty well without using rulers, you don't feel like you have to use a ruler. You know, it can look beautiful just using it or just drawing it and sketching it freehand. That can look great too. I'm just taking a little more of time to maybe get a little more of an accurate drawing here. So you'll have both approaches you can do at any time. It's up to you. And all right, let's take a quick break and we'll come right back and finish the drawing. All right, so we're getting started again here, and let's get the, what I'm going to do is, once I finish this pencil sketch right now, I'm going to actually redraw over the top of this with a darker pencil line. So I've been kind of going at I'm going with like an average pencil line with not pressing too much pressure on the pencil and making a really, really dark line, because I am doing a lot of, like, you know, working angles and things and dots and trying to get everything just right. So that is more of like a lighter feel you're going to use with your pencil drawing when you're doing these type of drawings with like architecture and things with your paintings. So that being said, I do want you to have a really good strong pencil line, dark pencil line that you can kind of look at and work with. So what I'll do is we'll actually go over this with a darker pencil line one more time. Right on top of this, I'll just trace over it basically with a contour drawing, which is I'll just use just the, you know, just drawing it as if I'm drawing it for the first time over the top of what we've already created here. Okay, so I won't be using all the angles and the ruler and so forth on top of that. So we will do that in just a few minutes. So, but let's get everything finished up here. We said we wanted to do that tour boat over here on the right hand side, so I will do that. And I'm just going to look and say, where does that end up over here? Regarding this building, getting this information over here, I'm going to be looking to this information over here. Again, I'm not getting into lots of details with this building. It's a restaurant. I'm going to get those two red doors there. Let's do that. So I will do that. I'll get that. I'm looking at that double door. That's the main entry door to the restaurant. It's actually lined up with the peak of this gable up here. So if you can imagine, we'll use that line that we drew before to get our half of triangle here, half of triangle over here, and then we got the other half of that triangle over this way. Now we use that same line that's still on our paper, very light line we did, sketch line, and we'll make that double door there, and it's almost to the height of the wall of the this portion of the building, this section of the building right here. So it's just about that height. So I'll just go across and get a rectangle. Again, you can use a ruler to get a rectangle here, you know, to make it kind of accurate. It's up to you. You can just do it by hand if you want. And then I'll make the double door like that. Then there's another window over here. Top of the window over here is the same height as the door over here, so that's easy enough. I'll make one square window over here, like we're seeing in the painting. I mean the photograph. Then over here there's another double door here. Let's come over here and put that in. Leave it the same height exactly as this over here. Okay, we'll just put another rectangle over here, like that. That's another double door over here. And then we have a double window over here. It looks like a casement window. And we'll do the same thing. We'll leave it the same height. So all the heights of all your doors and windows going all the way across, like we're looking at here in the photograph, all on the same height, the same level, the tops of all the doors and windows. This happens to be a window over here. Could be a door too, but it looks like a window, so I'm going to put it in as a window, like that, like so. And there's another window over here underneath the umbrella, so I will put that in. That seems to be the bottom of this window, same as that, so I'll put that over here. Like that. And what else do we have? There is another wall here alongside this window. And the rest is underneath the umbrella, so we don't have to worry about that. There are a few vent pipes on top of the roof, so we want to put those in. Put a few vent pipes on top of the roof, like so. There's another piling, it looks like, that goes up about here, right alongside where that wall is. So I'll put another vent pipe here. Piling here. That might be a light post for a light. And that looks pretty good. So let's just kind of finish up over here. So the distant mountain here in the photograph is just a little bit below the eave of this roof. So that will be our level line. That's going to go from the little bit below the eave of this roof. That'll be the coast, the distant horizon line of the coast, across like that. And then as I get right over to where this piling is, it kind of is a good indication of where this boat starts to rise up. The section of this tour boat starts to have a bit of a angle like that up this way. And then another bit here, like this. Like that. And then we could just make some, I don't even think we're going to worry about that as far as drawing in any of these small rectangular shapes. We'll do those later. So this boat is here, and it comes down about, I would say, right around where the top of this railing is. That's the bottom of the boat here, about there. So I'll just make sure my ruler is straight there, and I'll go across. That'll be the boat where it's sitting in the water. We could put a front to the boat if we wanted to, like this. Like that. Okay, we're going to make some fun shapes here. Again, nothing that we can't enjoy and just have a good time creating this painting now. The only thing I would do at this point is, if I needed to evaluate so far what we have, I will make that distant mountain shape. So that's going to be, it starts about here where the crane is, the boom of the crane up, and then it's sort of like that. So now we have a really beautiful distant mountain, cool mountain type feature in the painting. Gives it three-dimensional quality. There's some ocean water there. In between, we might even take this and, well, I think that'll be fine. We'll have a wonderful time painting this now. All right, so we have everything we need. Now it's just a matter of going in with some beautiful washes, and we'll show you how we're going to mix up some colors in our palette to come up with a color scheme that's going to work for this. We'll mix up really pleasant, really beautiful looking colors, and then we'll just take our time and put in the washes. And we'll do it in the glazing method, which is going to be, we'll go light to dark. So we'll create lights first, and then when we have that really light wash across the whole painting, we'll go in with the darker colors. But I did mention we will do a darker pencil line over the top of this. Maybe not every single line, but we will get the basic, some of the basic structure penciled in a little darker so you can see that. Hopefully that'll be helpful. Okay, all right, so we'll be right back. All right, let's go over that little bit of a darker sketch here. So I think I'll start with, I'm going to use a half ruler here. Or we could just easily, I think I want to use this half ruler quick just to get those really sharp lines for the umbrella. I really like those. I like those really sharp lines for the umbrella. That always looks good. Like that. Okay, that'll be good for the umbrella. And then let's do the darker lines here. So I'm just going to do the basic, the roof features mostly here. That roof actually just lines up perfectly with the crane boom over here. So there's a boat of some sort that has a crane boom on it. We can put that in too over here, maybe. Just a couple lines there. Okay, the walls of the building here, here, here. Okay, a window over here. And then we have that, we have that door here, the main door for the restaurant, and another window, another door over here, another window. Okay, and then over here, this other rake edge here. Then we can erase that a little bit there. Then we're going to do the undulating mountain shape there. And then we have our tour boat here, like that. Bottom of the boat here, there's water here. We'll talk about just in a few minutes, we'll talk about the darks and lights of the painting so that we can kind of get a game plan as far as what's going to be dark, what's going to be light in this painting. We are going to we're going to make some pilings underneath. So I'll just use this photograph to get some of the pilings. And there's some thicker pilings, some thinner pilings. There's some areas where it's really dark, where it looks like there's many pilings. There's shadows and interesting things in the water. So all in all, there's some cross bracing too. So I see cross bracing under here. We'll have fun with our brushes and paints with all these cross bracings underneath the building, the restaurant. So don't worry about it. We'll make sure we have plenty of darks though underneath the building with all the pilings under there. Okay, pretty good here. We have that boat there. And then over here we do have another bit of foundation, I think. Something like that. I'll just go across like this with that line, just extend that line over that way. Then there might be a few more pilings over here, so I'm just going to kind of finish up with some of these pilings. And again, it doesn't all have to make 100% sense. Okay, maybe we'll make the windows over here by just adding a long rectangular line and then just doing hash marks like this. Then lighten it up a little bit, and we can use that to paint later when we're doing those windows. If you have just a little faint bit of lines under here on this tour boat over here, that'll give you a good light sketch just to put some paint brush strokes on there. And there's a few more here. All right, that's good. So now, next step is let's get painting. All right, again, I'll take a quick break. Oh, just wanted to make that sign there. Let's make a sign above here. Doesn't have to be exactly like that sign is that you see in the photograph. You might say to yourself, well, if that was my restaurant, I might make that sign a little different. Maybe I would make it, you know, more rectangular shaped. It's kind of like rounded. It's got like an oval kind of look to it. Maybe I'd make mine smaller and more of like a true rectangle shape. So you can do that too when you're an artist. You can change things around a little bit. No one's going to know the difference. Okay, like that. And there's a light here. All right, perfect time to take another quick break. We'll come back, we'll mix up our colors and get painting. All right, now, before we start painting, you could do a few different things. Just for your own notes, while you look at this photograph, you might just take a quick note and say, all right, let me just do a quick bit of note-taking here. And say, all right, look, here's the structure, the umbrella, the structure. Just make it like a basic shape like this over here. And then this is the tour boat over here. Let's just say you don't have to be perfect or try to do anything exact. Just get the idea of what you're seeing here. Parking lots over here. So that was light. Concrete over here. And then there's water, dark water here. So then all you do now is you take your pencil and you just say, this is the overall color scheme and or the overall, let's say the darks and lights of your paintings. You want to kind of consider those first. So we can see, wow, there's the roofs in this building are quite dark. So the roof might be a little darker like this. So you might pencil in just, doesn't have to be any, just note taking. This is basically just note taking for yourself. Then you might say, oh, okay. The building itself is a little bit lighter than the roof. It's not quite as dark. So you might shade in your building like this, just as a guide for yourself, so that when you go in and you start painting, you already kind of have a plan of where your darks and your lights are going to be. So already we kind of said the roof's a little darker, so you can see that. We made the darker roof here with our pencil shading. Then oh wow, look how dark this is. Do you see that? Wow, that water, that bay water here and right along the docks and the seawall here, that's super dark. So we're going to just make a note of that here by just doing a super dark like this. Like this, where the water is. That is really, really dark. So right there we've got some good dark. We're going to have to know that we're going to paint that dark with our paints. But there is quite a bit of lights under here too where the dock is. where the pilings are. So you can see that we're not going to make everything dark. We're going to leave this light underneath the building. So we'll make another note for ourselves, and you can even just take like an arrow, even if you wanted to, and say, leave lights under restaurant. Leave lights under restaurant. There. That's important, because I know I've done that in the past where I've painted over things and then that's it. Once I paint over something, hard to get that back to looking light where it's going to look really good. So just a good overall like basic concept of watercolor is once you paint it, you're pretty much, it's going to be the way it is. A lot of times it doesn't seem to be too much, it doesn't make sense to kind of like go back and try to repair a watercolor so much. You can do it. I've done it many times, but, and then these are some dark windows, and again, you can see I'm not making any attempt to try to get perfection here. I'm just making some notes, darks, and you can just put windows, dark windows there for this boat, for the tour boat. And we got the darks here. Make sure we got keep that dark. This is light over here, light, and this is light over here. This might be like medium. Put some medium tone on that. Some medium tone here. Sky is very light. This is light. Sky is light. Very light. Okay, umbrella is white paper. White paper for the most part. Alright, so that's our little bit of a game plan. Just going in and sketching something out quick, making a couple notes. All the old pros used to do this. I remember seeing many documentaries and things of the great old masters that used to paint, hundreds of years ago, and even in this century, tons of great artists. They'd always go out when they're doing their paintings and they take little notes like this before they do their finished work. Actually, they would do their finished work in the studio most times, but they would do a lot of like painting outdoors to get all their color ideas and the lights and the light of the picture and the paintings and so forth. But in any case, too, we could ask ourselves the question: where's the sunlight? It's kind of an overcast day today here on this scene. So this scene is not like a bright sunlit scene, but there is, there's some brightness to it. It's probably midday right now. But you can see like actually the shadows are directly under the vehicle here. And so that means it's probably cloudy and the sun is probably directly overhead like midday, like around noontime. So we don't have to worry too much about shadows and things like that. We're just going to paint this one with not so much a lot of shadows and bright sunlight, let's say, the effect of bright sunlight. All right, that's it. Let's keep going here. So we're going to get our colors. And I also wanted to mention that you can use any brushes you like. Flat brushes are really nice, especially with this type of painting. I might use some flat brushes because there's a lot of square lines for the roofing and the architecture and things, so I might use some flat brushes, but I'm going to use some round brushes too. Some good round watercolor brushes, all different sizes. Needlepoint brush, I have all these in the comments below, the comment section below. I get all my art supplies from Amazon, so you can always go and check out my art supplies on Amazon, see what I'm using, the different brands and types and the numbers and stuff I have, what size number the brushes are and so forth. So, but that is really the main thing we're going to look at here now. Is we have our brushes, we have our paints. My colors are just standard colors: French ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, cerulean blue. Purple, we have just this mineral. This is ultramarine violet by Winsor Newton. All my colors are either Winsor Newton mostly, and then also some Holbein colors in here. But you can always email me and ask me the colors. I can send you color charts of all the colors I use, and I have tons of videos on colors, so on my paint colors and color selections and my palettes. So if you just type in to YouTube Chris Petrie palette or Chris Petrie paint colors, you'll see that I have like probably 10 videos of every kind of like idea. 10 videos on my palettes, 10 videos on all the colors I use. So I kind of really have put out over the last 10 years or so all of my information on what I use. So you could do a quick research on all of that if you want to. Let's see, we'll get some fresh, clean water. And I'm just using a standard water container, rubberized water container. They're nice and quiet for making videos. And other than that, I probably use the Holbein collapsible water containers. They look something like this. They're collapsible. You can open them up. You can open them up and then squeeze them down and make them smaller like that. Sorry about the noise. That's probably kind of loud. All right, so fresh, clean water. I'll use maybe a round brush to mix some colors. So I'll use a round brush to get some colors out on the palette. We're just going to sort of just get some beautiful cerulean blue for the sky wash. And a little bit of Viridian green in there too. Let's use a little bit of Viridian green for the sky wash. Cerulean blue, Viridian. Viridian is a beautiful green, cool green. We're going to have some raw umber and raw sienna maybe over here. Maybe some raw sienna. Just to add a little warmth to the cool blue once in a while. You'll see we'll add a little bit of that to the sky wash maybe. And let's see here. We're going to have to mix up some more of the blue and green because we're going to need quite a bit of sky wash. And we'll bring that sky wash right down into the foreground, so you'll see how we do that in just a second. All right, so we have kind of a good mixture here. Maybe a little bit of French ultramarine blue over here, and maybe a touch of ultramarine purple, like that. And then what I'll do is I'll take the just the regular flat brush like this and just put a glazing of water over the whole paper. Just a light glazing. I wouldn't flood the paper out with too much water, just to go over the entire surface one time with a light damp brush with some water on there. And I'd keep a paper towel or tissue handy just in case it starts to drip down or anything like that. You can catch some of those bits of water if it starts to roll off the paper or whatever. But yeah, if you just cover it, just like a nice light covering of water over the top of the paper, covering the whole paper, just like this. And that'll be our starting point of doing our first glazing of light wash over the entire paper, and then we let that dry 100%, and then we come back and we start doing some of our darker tonal values, which are the building, the roof, the water, some of the details of the pilings underneath there. So you'll see how we're going to go light to dark. So the super light wash of the sky goes in first. So you just do that. You just have fun. Let the water paint, let the paint and the water do the work for you. I wouldn't overwork this at all. I would let it just kind of happen. See, I'm kind of using all of the blues here and the green, the Viridian, like that, and then maybe a little bit of that gold color, just a little bit there. Introduce a little bit of the gold color in the sky just to harmonize the colors, because we're going to use gold in the building. So we'll put some gold raw sienna. And again, we're going to use dark colors. I would lift up, I'm going to keep that umbrella white paper, so I'll lift up that little bit of wash over there. And again, more of the blue and gold everywhere in the painting. And you can keep everything going vertically, your brush strokes like this. The boat's going to stay pretty much white, the tour boat. It's white in the picture here, so let's stick to the, pretty much, you know, we're sticking to what we see in the photograph. We're not going to be going off on a different direction as far as we're going to use this as our guide as to our darks and lights of the painting. So we have some blue sky, beautiful blue sky in there, light blue sky. This will dry lighter. We're taking some of that color from the sky and just bringing it down into the painting, so that the colors all are in harmony together, so that once we finish up with our darks, which is going to be very soon, we're going to be going in and finishing up with our medium and tonal darks of our painting. And you'll see that this is the fun part. Now you've got the drawing done, and now it's just letting the watercolor do its own thing. The watercolor, the paint, it's having a great time. We don't have to fuss with it. We just wet the paper, again, gently wet the paper with just a light wash, clean, crystal clear water. Then we, again, you just saw, we just touched down some paint onto the paper and then let it just flow and work around the painting. And we just made sure we introduced some warm and cool everywhere. So lots of blue, cool, but we have some raw sienna too that we added in just to make sure that we're kind of, mixing and getting in some warm and cool colors everywhere in the composition. And that's really it. Once we have that, we let this dry 100%. So now the fun part is we can have some lunch or some breakfast or some dinner, take an hour or so, let it dry. Or if you want to use a blow dryer, by all means, if you like to work and you want to get things moving quickly again, you would let this maybe sit for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you come back with a blow dryer and dry it the rest of the way. I will say if you let it dry naturally for an hour or two, and then maybe you might have to touch up a little bit with a blow dryer, you'll have a better effect. The water will seep into the paper better, and it'll have a more, I guess, like more of a transparent look to it. But you could dry it off quickly too, just if you're doing a composition and it's not really a finished painting, and you're just trying to do some compositions to get familiar with how to do the glazing technique and what we're doing here, fine. Get the blow dryer out, dry the thing off quickly, and then bam, you're right back in there working some medium tonal values, some mid-tones, and some darks. We're going to start working on those next. You're going to have a great time here finishing up this painting. And like I said, that's the fun of watercolor. It really is. It does a lot of the work for you, so don't ever be outwitted by watercolor. Trust me, a lot of it is, if you can get that drawing in, do a good job getting that nice looking pencil drawing in there, the rest you can just zip that paint on there and you'll see it really does look beautiful, just all on its own. It's its own star. Watercolor is the star of its own show. It'll do all the work for you pretty much. So again, don't worry. Have fun, don't stress, and hang with us here for the next few minutes or so. We're going to just, again, let this dry 100%. You have to remember that though. Once you have this first wash on, you have to let it dry 100% and then go back in. And as you'll see when we're going to go back in a few minutes, then we can get all those other beautiful darks and medium tones within this painting to finish it up. But if we try going in right now while it's still very wet and damp, the colors will just start flying into all places you don't want them to go. So that's one thing I have to say. Watercolor is challenging in that way, that you have to really understand how it works and how the paper, if it's paper still wet and you try painting other washes on top of it, it really goes badly. So don't let that happen. Let this dry again 100%, a couple hours, or you can use the blow dryer again. Okay, all right, so we'll be right back and we'll finish up. All right, so now this is completely 100% dry. I used the blow dryer. Perfect conditions now to go back in and put in the rest of the watercolor washes that we're going to do. Again, it's the glazing technique. Here we're using light wash first. Completely get your first wash in, light glazing first. Now we're going to just start mixing up some darker colors, and what we'll do is, first thing I would do is I would lift up any puddles that you might have in your palette. But I would leave some of the colors that unless you're 100% familiar with your colors that you use all the time, you might clean up the whole palette and just wipe everything down or whatever. But I would say leave some of the colors, and if you're not familiar, like if you're just starting out with watercolors, you could always leave a little bit of the residues of the colors in your palette so that you know which colors you're going to be putting back out again. So here I know I'm going to be putting back out all the colors I used in the sky wash again into the palette, but I'm not going to use much water at all. So I'll have a tissue with me. Keep a tissue in my hand at all times. You keep a tissue or even a sponge next to your palette, so you can have a sponge sitting next to your water container, I should say. So if you have a tissue next to your water container, you can rinse off your brush, tap off a little bit of the water onto a sponge, and then you can come over and pick up some paints and mix up your colors in here. But you would need to stop first and dry off your brush a little bit on a sponge or a paper towel or a tissue like I'm doing here, or an apron. If you have an apron, you can like rinse your brush off and tap it on your apron like that, and then you can come over and pick up your colors. But that's really helpful. You have to kind of keep really mindful that once you're doing your darker tonal values that we have in this painting right now, the darker washes, your brush can't be full of water like we used in the first wash. The first wash we had tons of water. We're getting that light wash on there. Now the second time we go back into the painting, now we're using very little water. We're almost using straight paint at this point. I mean, we do have to use a bit of a damp brush to have a little bit of water in here, but let's just, we put a little bit of that just so we have some of the blue, the French ultramarine blue. We have some more of the cerulean blue, Viridian green. But you can notice I'm not using hardly any water at all. So there's no puddles at all really. It's just the straight paint. And then over here we're going to take again the raw sienna. So you can notice I'm just picking up the same colors we used before. Raw sienna, lots of raw sienna. Now we're going to have to introduce some of the darker washes. That's going to be burnt umber, like that, with a little more French ultramarine blue to get ourselves some warm and cool, like that. A little bit of purple. A little bit of cerulean blue in there too. So here we're just going to make some really nice darker colors and darker mixes, and then we'll go in and we'll create our building here. So I'll go in first and do this, the building. I'll leave a little bit of white for the boards that are on the gable of the roof and the building. I'm using a round brush here. You can see it's not too large. You could use a flat brush too if you want. Flat brushes work good for architecture, so you could use that too if you want. But I'm just going to mix up the brown in there. And I have the kind of the conglomeration of colors that we mixed right here in the palette. Not much water though. You can see how my brush is not flooding the paper with water. It's actually mostly just paint. Almost straight paint with just a little bit of water. And I'm getting that nice dark, medium dark for the building. And it'll dry, it's going to dry lighter actually. Like right now I'm putting this on and you're probably saying, oh, it looks a little bit too dark, but it'll lighten up actually. Watercolor usually dries about 50% lighter once it's dry. So if you're putting it down on the paper and it looks a little bit dark but not super dark, that'll be a good medium dark because it'll lighten up a little bit. So you'll notice that it will lighten up. And I'll just do the same thing here. I'll make sure to paint around that umbrella. I don't want to have any paint on top of that umbrella. I want to make sure I leave that white paper. And then we're leaving that white trim on the building. You could paint over the trim and not worry about it. I like to leave a little bit of those lights where the trim is on the building, but again, you can paint it your own way. Once you start painting, it's your painting, you're going to do it your way. You could try this painting 2 or 3 times and maybe try different variations of colors or things like that. That would be fun. Don't you think it would be fun to do that? Different colors you can mix for the color of the building. Maybe the building could be a light color and you could change it around if you want. Well, in any case, that's like a cadmium red for the doors there. So I'll put some cadmium red here. Now with cadmium red, I'm going to take a little bit of that cadmium red and put it a little bit here and there in some of the other areas I just painted, but quickly though. I can't wait too long. That's the main thing. You have to. I'm always thinking I have to get that. If I'm going to add some red into my painting, I have to do it quickly. I might have even gone in there a little bit too slowly, and there'll be some awkward looking washes on the building right now, but I think that I might be okay with that. But let's get the red doors in here. There's windows on the doors, so I'm just going to go like this, like that. And if I just do that quickly, there we go. I have my, and not fussing around is really going to help too. I think that really is a big advantage to watercolor, is you don't have to fuss around. You can actually work at a good, quick pace with watercolor, and you'll notice that things do look better, I think, that way, versus trying to really go with too much time spent on one area. Like it took me literally 30 seconds to paint those doors there, because it's better off not taking too much time on things. And I'll put some details on this window here, maybe just a couple bits of panes of glass there with some grills in the glass, and that's good. That looks okay. You could lighten it up a little bit there. Maybe I went too dark. And then once I'll leave that go, if I lift up some paint, I'll go back in later and finish up that window. If I don't like the way that window came out, you can always blot it up fast, but then you can't go back in and work on it until it dries. So you can go move. We always move around in watercolor. You probably hear a lot of watercolor artists talk about that. You move around your painting, so you can move around the painting and then come back to other sections that you feel you might need to just let them, certain sections dry a little bit. And let's see if we can keep with that game plan of not worrying too much. Okay, there's a boat over there. So you see how we zip that section in really quick. And over here too, I think. Now the roof is quite dark. Maybe we'll work on the roof next. Roof is quite dark, so we'll pick up some of these darks, maybe add some French ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And I'm just zipping along here. We have that crane there, so we're going to let that be as it is for right now. So I would let's do the crane mast and some of these like and the pilings and these pilings over here. So any of these like kind of like sticks or like tubular type shapes in the painting, let those go to the very last part of the painting. When you can take a rest before you do those, and really we'll show you how to do that so that those don't become a problem with your painting. Because a lot of times, I know myself, when I first started watercolor, even when I was painting many years of painting, I always noticed that, yeah, that really is a challenge sometimes, getting those straight lines and so forth in the paintings. So if we leave them to the last bit, we'll be better off, and then we'll show you the techniques you can use to get those straight lines really looking good. So I'll continue over here, and then I'll take some blue. Again, mostly just a damp brush here, and mostly a damp brush, and then just straight paint for the darks of the painting. Okay. Except for these smaller, if you want to do like the smaller pipes and things on the roof, that's fine. All right, now I think we're going to go for doing the large dark here of the water, of this water that's right here in this little bit of a bay area right underneath the restaurant. Let's take that dark here again. French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, maybe a little bit of red, the cadmium red that we used. Burnt umber, bit of purple, a little bit of green. I would just make a good dark here. And then once you get some of the darks here, you could take we could go back and use this brush, or even something like a medium-sized brush like this, and we could maybe get a little more of an effect here. So we could use this medium-sized brush. I think this is a 5/8 inch brush. This brush is in my comment section below. Raw sienna too. And you can kind of do some fun bits of wash like this. French ultramarine blue. Sprinkle a little bit of water on there. Maybe we could take our tissue, roll our tissue up a little bit, and maybe do a little bit of something like that. Then we could come back in here. We'll get our boat here. That looks really good. Now we have some really nice darks that are kind of in the center of the painting. And then from here, you might see in this photograph too that we've got most of the darks now completed. There are some others. There's a few little small bit of darks over here in this boat. There's some darks underneath the building, which are the pilings. We'll do that next maybe. But then the rest should pretty much stay as it is, pretty light. All right, so let's take a break at this point. Let's not get caught up with the old issue and challenge of, oh, I can just keep going and keep going and keep going. That can be an issue. So take a break. When you start to feel like you're a little bit tight, you feel a little bit tense, that's the perfect time you take your break. You just relax just for a few minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes. You sit down. You maybe just take a quick, bit of time just to, relax, keep your mind still, and then you come back to the painting, and then you look and say, okay, what am I going to work on next? And then you'll game plan what you're going to do next. You'll say, okay, when we come back, we're going to say, oh, well, let's start working some of the darks of the pilings underneath the building. That seems like a good place to go because we just did the building and the water underneath the building where there's those darks here. Then we just naturally tie this all together with the darks of the pilings underneath, and that's going to really give us a feeling of, wow, we've got most of the painting done, and then it's just a matter of adding in a few more details, and we'll have everything looking really, really good. All right, so we'll be right back, and we'll get started with some of the other darks under the restaurant here, some pilings, and we're going to have a fun time finishing this painting, and glad you're here painting with us, and we'll be back again in just a second. All right, simple enough now. We're working with our darks. We're going to do some of the dark pilings underneath of our restaurant. So I'm just going to take those darks we've been using, infuse back in there a little bit of the burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, a little bit of green, the Viridian. There's some red over here, which is some warm colors with some raw sienna. So we have a great mixture of really good colors here, warm and cool colors. And I'm going to rinse off my brush, dry off the water, and come in and just get some of these really These are darker darks here, and we'll just start filling them in. And I noticed that there is a bit of dark here underneath. Doesn't necessarily have to be even or anything like that. Just a bit of dark shadow right under that decking underneath the. And then we can just take our brush and start putting in our darker darks. And I think if we just go with the idea of we just mix it up. We don't want to make just like straight lines all the way across like this. We want to kind of make some thick lines here where there's a lot of pilings, and then there's areas where there's just a few like this, and there's some diagonals. And we're not taking too much time and effort for it. It's kind of a loose idea of the. There's water under there, a little bit of that feeling of water. Like that. That should be fine. I see some more darks over here in these windows of this. It's either a fishing boat, or it might even be the boat that has the crane. So we'll do that. Those are the windows for that boat. And there's some canopy over the boat, like that. And what else do we have? We have some darks underneath there too. So there is a little bit of a light there, and then there's some darks. So I'll pick up some of the darks there, and there's some darks that are cooler, and then there's some warmer darks too. So you'll see that some of these darks do like have that quality of some reddish brown for some of the darks. There's a bit of a dark here across the bottom of the boat. I'll go across here like that. And there's some more pilings under here. And I think at this point we are going to do some more darks over here. So I'll take some French ultramarine blue, mix it with a little bit of the reddish brown there, dry off the brush a little bit so that I don't have too much paint on the brush, and we'll get some of these darks in here. I think that'll be fine if we just put some of these in. And I think if we do these kind of quickly and just have a fun time putting them in, that's going to look good. You could use like a small square brush too, or a small flat brush, and just do quick little, kind of like dabs on there with a flat brush. But I'll paint them in as squares like this with a fine brush like this. And this looks like the pilot house of the tour boat. Okay, and then I might go back and rinse off this brush and use a little bit of the, I'll probably use that smaller brush again. Here, we'll use some of that blue with a little bit of the mixture of this here. What I'd like to do is have a bluish cool color for that distant mountain over there. That's far in the distance, that mountain back there. So I don't want to make it dark. I want to make it, you know, kind of bluish. It's like a bluish green color. And then as I do that, I could always use a tissue and lift up a little bit to lighten it up a little bit, maybe. Okay, now I'm looking at, I think maybe just finishing up with some medium tone. We can always take a small bit of like a curtain rod or a dowel, anything like this. If you want to get a straighter line, you can always just rest like a dowel on your table and use it to go across. Or you can just rest your hand on the paper carefully and just go a little bit at a time, like that. And I would skip a few things. I would not. There we go. So I rest my hand on the paper like this. It's dry, the paper underneath here, so I can just go right across and just go across a little bit at a time. Lift up, rest my hand down again, and then just gently slide the brush across the paper. Doesn't have to be perfect. We could change up the colors a little bit. That might look really good. You can dry off the brush a little bit and make it kind of dry brushy like that. Then we can go in and get a little more of a different color. Maybe add a little bit of warmer color to that if we want. Maybe we'll do some uprights here for our railings. Like this. Like that. And then over here, let's use that medium 5/8 brush that we used, the flat brush over here. Maybe we'll just get this wall in here. Like this. We could make it a little bit darker if we want to. Kind of nice to have the angle coming in a little bit like that into the painting. And then we can do a few other things here, a couple darks and lights for the umbrella. The umbrella here is, so I just got a little bit of the dark here on my brush, fine brush, dry off a little bit of the paint so that I can just have a little tiny bit of paint on there, and then I can just go here and get the umbrella like this. That's the key right there, just to have the brush with not too much paint and water on there, just a little bit of paint and water on the brush. And we can get that really nice look there. And then over here we can do the same thing, get some paint on the brush, dry off a little bit of that paint, and then we can get that darker section up here of the crane. And I just rest my hand on the paper, touch down onto the paper, and then just slowly control the brush carefully. Just hold it right the same way, like that. That's good. Maybe a little bit of green here for the boat. So this is where we just kind of finish up our final bits of washes. A little bit of darks in the windows here maybe. Up top there, like that. Then maybe we'll do a little dark over here. Dry off the brush again so there's not too much paint on the brush. And then we could just do, you know, some kind of interesting... I'm just going to try to think of what I might... like that. So I scribble something on there. Maybe there's a copyright infringement if I'm trying to copy someone's restaurant or something like that. So instead of worrying about it, I just make it unlegible so that you can't really read what that is, but it looks sort of like a good bit of script on there. And then I just continue to work through here. A little bit of the green, the green, darker wash of the green. And just a little bit of shadow there, maybe something mysterious. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can adjust some of the lights that you have, your highlights and things like that. You can adjust some of those as you work. Now to finish up the painting, the umbrella is fine. That's going to be white paper. The boat over here stays white paper for the most part. You could add a little bit of wash to the boat to give it some, just a little bit of color. I would rinse out my water container and get fresh clean water now, because I'm going to try to get a very subtle light wash on this tour boat. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. Leave just a little bit of that bluish green. Tap off a little bit there, and let's see if we can get a little bit of a rinse off the brush, damp brush. So I add just a little bit of wash to that. Maybe a little bit of the green. Like that. And maybe a little bit of dark over here. Okay, and then again, we're going to work on just, you could also do your, you could create your pilings with a flat brush like this. You see how that's like a really chiseled edge on the flat brush? You could take some of your darks like this, dry off your brush a little bit, your flat brush like this, and then you can actually, we can get a few of these pilings by just gently touching down like that, and just move it down like this. Now here, I forgot to mention, you can't paint over the damp paper where we just painted the boat. So you lift that up quick with a tissue, and then once that dries 100%, you can go back in and add something in there. Another bit of line with your flat brush. And then here you can add some highlights or some shadows. So I'll add some shadows there to this side of the crane. Boom, there, like that. And maybe some more maybe a little bit of shadow over here, maybe on the umbrella, maybe just a touch of that shadow there on the umbrella. That might look good. And who knows, maybe there's a couple of just some very light lines here for the parking spaces like this, like that. And then maybe there's a couple of lines like this. Just a few though, I wouldn't do many. And then you can see how this is really I thought a little bit of a darker shadow under there might look good. And you can see how we're pretty much have our completed painting here. You could do a little more detail if you want to, but this is kind of like what I would consider completed. We did the light wash first, and then of course we did our medium tonal values and our darkest darks last in the painting. And that's really the key to the glazing technique and doing a painting like this. And it's so much fun. Again, you could do more details to it. You could, if you want to take a challenge of maybe try one without a vehicle, then maybe you could try one with a car or a van like this in the painting. That would probably look pretty good in there, a van or something like that. But I figured I would keep it real basic first, just to kind of get the idea of the glazing technique, getting a good solid pencil drawing in there first, and then just having a lot of fun with the colors, mixing and mingling all the colors together. And you know, at this point I think we're fine. There could be a little bit of touch up here. We could do some of these you could touch up a few lines or something like that if you think you might want to cover over something that you maybe had an idea of putting a piling here up, and then now we just figured let's cover over that with the roof there. That's fine. We could add a few more details maybe to the boat over here. So maybe we could have a few antennas and things on the top of the boat. A couple of details like that. We can angle these a little bit. Alright, so we had a lot of fun painting this painting. Hope you'll subscribe. Feel free to subscribe. We're just going to be getting together here again every week, week after week, month after month, and year after year. We'll be getting together, creating wonderful paintings. This is a great painting for beginners as well as intermediate, to even if you've been painting quite a long time and you want to have a fun just idea of a restaurant along a coastal area, along a bay or ocean. A lot of fun. It's just really good painting to try. And again, we did want to say that for this painting, it was the glazing technique really was the beauty of it, letting that water and the paints mix and mingle on the paper. Wonderful effects you get with that, and then as well going over with the darker middle tones and darker tones just to get that real beautiful pop in your painting where you have lots of lights and then lots of really rich, exciting color and dark passages in your watercolor painting as well. So that's really a key to this painting, is having lots of good lights and darks and putting everything all together and just, you know, having a good time and enjoying the process. Okay? All right, so we'll see you on the next video.